What's up, y'all? It's Fen, and I'm gonna do another video because I promised I would, and this is going to be a story time. This is a story that I have been meaning to tell, but I just keep forgetting, and now that I don't really have much of anything going on in my life as far as material goes, I figured I'd pull this one out of my ass. So I have a few individuals in my life that I genuinely want to be around, genuinely admire and appreciate, but one is my dog Grace. And I post not a whole lot of videos of her, but there's a few videos of her up here around. Grace! Cut that shit out! Kidding. I call her my GF because I adore her, like for real. Just love the shit out of her. Yo, Grace. Gracie. What up? And she is definitely not long for this world. She is 13 years old, a boxador, so boxer lab mix. She kind of just looks like a smaller boxer with less snubbed nose. But she's great, like super energetic. And now she has what I think is Anderson's disease, where she has a tumor on her adrenal gland and one on her spleen. And she has episodes where she's, you know, really depressed and shivering. And so I'm thinking that's exactly what it is. But, you know, I'm not entirely certain. I've taken her to the vet and it seems like her days are numbered. But, you know, that's an eventuality. That is a hard and fast fact about being a living individual, is that your friends fucking die. So I'll be ready for that when it happens, and I'll enjoy her while I have her. So this story isn't necessarily a sob story, but I think it is important to put out there because it's got some information in it that is probably helpful for some, and just, you know, follow your intuition and be diligent. That's what I'll preface this with. So it was about 4 years ago, September of 2013. I had just started at this new school that I transferred to, and I kind of fucking hated it. I just didn't like the area or the people. I just didn't like, in general, it was a remote, rural like school and a party school, and so, you know, that's not my shit. I'm not interested. So I was trying to get acclimated to that, and I was living with Diglett. We had been together for about 4 years then, and you know, things were all right, but I hated the school, and it was the only school that really offered my major, environmental health science, so, you know, I kind of just needed to go with it. One day, I am in chemistry, and I get a call from my dad. I don't answer it, I let it go to voicemail, and I listen to the message later, and it is full of incoherencies and yelling. He's just yelling a whole fucking lot, and I didn't understand the majority of what he was saying, but I did understand you need to come back home and say goodbye to your fucking dog. He was going to take her back to the pound, and I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on, and so he told me I needed to come back 2 hours from school to come visit and say goodbye to my dog that day. And I just... okay. I didn't have a car then. It was just a whole lot of bullshit. So I call him after class, and he's calmed down a bit, but he's still, you know, a little bit heated, a little bit irate. And so I calm him down even more because my dad's just a passionate dude. He's just all about yelling. I find out that Grace has developed separation anxiety, and so she freaked the fuck out when my parents left the house and destroyed the house. Mostly the windows and doors, which is, you know, a hallmark sign of separation anxiety. I was talking to him, trying to figure out what we could do to make the house more accommodating to her. My dad really just wanted to get rid of her, and I was thinking, you know, we have neighbors who have a fenced-in yard and we're really friendly with them. Maybe she can stay in their yard while my parents are at work. My brother was off at school 4 hours away, so that was out of the question. I couldn't take her because I was living in the dorms and, you know, they don't allow pets there. So I'm figuring, you know, trying to figure out a way to help her out because taking her back is not a fucking option for me. I can't take her back. That's my dog. It's weird because he's the one who brought her into our family, and I didn't want another dog because I actually had a dog that died who was hit by a car, and I never got to say goodbye to him, and it was, you know, kind of traumatizing for me. And so I didn't want another dog. And I got really attached to Gracie after he brought her home. And, you know, taking her back wasn't an option. It just wasn't. I started putting out feelers to see if I have any friends who could possibly take care of her while we find a way to make the house more accommodating for her. And I actually have a friend, really good friend from high school that I've known since middle school, who, you know, kind of steps up and says, you know, I can babysit her for a while you guys figure things out. And I was like, cool, this is fucking awesome. Because I was thinking I might need to give her to, you know, almost a stranger, not necessarily someone I don't know at all, but maybe somebody, you know, that just wants to take care of Grace for a little bit. But this is someone that I actually know very well. My parents are like, cool. So your friend, let's call her Jane. Jane is gonna come get Gracie and take care of Gracie. So we're good. Jane lives 6 hours away in South Carolina. And so she comes by to come get Gracie. And she's always been an odd bird. We don't really worry about this particular situation where she came to get Grace and she didn't, like, it was like just unceremonious as fuck, where she didn't leave a note, she didn't call anyone, she didn't text anybody, didn't let anyone know that she was coming. Like, we knew she was coming there, but you know, it's kind of nice to have a heads up that she's there and she got Grace and she's gone. She didn't do that, so I just ended up calling her that day just to make sure that she had Grace, and she did, so we're good. And at this point, that's not really a red flag for me. That's kind of Hallmark Jane. That's what she does. She's an odd bird. So when I call her, I let her know my parents are going to be sending you money to take care of her for, you know, any incidentals, for food and all that stuff. And please, please, please let me know if it ever becomes, you know, overwhelming, that you don't want to take care of Grace anymore for any reason. I don't care what reason it is. Absolutely just bring her back home if you're not interested anymore, because I don't want to take advantage of our friendship. And, you know, I don't want Grace to be with a person who doesn't want to be around Grace. So I let her know, you know, please bring her back if at all necessary. Just do it. So within the first week, I get a call from Jane saying that Grace got out. And that is something that Grace does a lot. So I absolutely believe that. And she said that she had contracted fleas, and so I had sent Canine Advantix to take care of the fleas, and some money for whatever extra things that she needed to do. And so Jane treats Grace for the fleas, and she's fine, and calls me near the end of the week letting me know that she's going to be going on vacation, which I was like, cool. And she's going to be putting Grace in a kennel for a little bit over the weekend and maybe a few days into the week of the next week. And so I was like, all right, as long as you know, can afford that. My parents can't necessarily piggyback for that because we're expecting you to be with the dog. But we'll give you as much as we can. So Jane comes back to my hometown to visit her mom and to visit my parents, and my mom's like, yo, where's Grace at? And Jane says that, oh yeah, she's in a kennel. I have her staying there while I'm on vacation, and my mom's like, cool, you do you. That weekend, Jane calls me and lets me know that Grace has kennel cough and that they need to put her down. If you're a person who owns a dog who's had kennel cough, you know how fucking ridiculous that is. That they're putting down a dog for having what is kind of the equivalent of having a cold. So I was like, dude, bring my dog back, because they don't know what they're doing. That's ridiculous. You don't need to put a dog down for having kennel cough. And at this point, that's not a super red flag for me, because it just seems like Jane just got the luck of the draw and getting a really bad kennel that had people there that didn't know what they were doing. And so I was like, bring back my dog. And she's like, okay. And later on that day, she calls me back and says, oh no, it was a mix-up. It's another dog, coincidentally, I guess, named Grace, that had to be put down at the kennel. And so at that point, I'm not necessarily, you know, freaking out. I'm just more vigilant, and so I'm more proactive in getting updates from Jane to figure out what's going on with my dog, just calling more often. So a couple weeks go by and everything's fine. Jane's getting money from my parents and I'm getting updates, and, you know, Grace is good. One weekend, Jane comes back to my parents again to change her oil, or have my dad change her oil. And my mom asks, you know, you're going on a lot of vacations. How can you afford to keep Grace in a kennel so often? And Jane gets weird. She kind of dances around answering my mom, and my mom is kind of a terrifying person when she thinks she's being bullshitted, and so she's very good at getting to the bottom of things. And she scared the shit out of Jane, and Jane, I guess, just came clean eventually after dancing around the truth and said, she's in a good home. I know the family that I adopted her out to, and she's in a good home. That's what she said. That's what she said to my mom. My mom flipped the fuck out, reasonably so, and told her to call me. That didn't happen. So my mom actually called me and told me to call Jane. My mom hadn't really told me what was going on necessarily. She just said, there's something up with Grace. Ask Jane about it. And I called Jane and I'm like, what's going on with my dog? And she says that she's adopted my dog out. That she knows the family and it's a good family. And I couldn't believe that. I couldn't, like, in my mind, I couldn't process why she would think that was okay to do. And, you know, I was upset. And so I told her to give me the phone number to the adoption agency that she took Grace to and had her adopted out from. And, you know, do you know the family's number? And she's like, I don't know the family's number. Like, how do you know the family but you don't know their number? Oh, okay. Give me the adoption agency. The next day, I call up to the adoption agency and they say they have absolutely no fucking record of Jane or Gracie. They don't even have any boxers that they've had. And so I'm like, okay, well, how could this be? Because Jane said she took Gracie here and that's where she was adopted out from. And they say that she wasn't here, that we have no record of her, so she wasn't here. And so they give me the number to the pound. Apparently people get it mixed up often with this place because they both have paws in the name. It's not like a regular pound where it's like county pound number 10857. It actually has a name and it has paws in it. And so I get the number for the pound and let Jane know that they have no record of her going to the adoption agency and could it have been the pound? She's like, oh, it might have been the pound. And so I call up the pound and ask them if they have my dog and they say, no, we don't have a boxer here. And so I'm like, okay, did you meet with anyone named Jane who brought in a boxer? She was trying to adopt her out, and they say, I mean, we see people all the time. We don't really know. It's possible that she's been adopted out. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So who did you adopt her out to? And they're like, well, we can't give you that information. I was like, fuck. Okay. I'll call you back. And so I tell Jane to go over to the pound and see if Grace is there. She goes there and she doesn't see her. She says she talks to this guy named Greg. He's tall and has a beard. That's really all I remember from that. And she really didn't get to the bottom of it. She really didn't find out whether or not Grace had been there or if she had been adopted out. But I'm kind of leaning towards my dog being adopted out or something of that nature. You know, I'm distraught. I'm distraught and I'm stressed out. And my parents are not helpful by any means. Throughout the process, they insinuate that Jane has been lying to me, that Jane has killed my dog, that Jane has left my dog on the side of the road somewhere, that my dog is dead. There was no doubt in their mind that Grace had come to some kind of harm or I was never going to see her again. And so I had that as well as just the stress of trying to figure out where Grace was. So I call up the microchip manufacturer that made Grace's microchip and I activate it. So I guess just for anyone, like a pro tip, if you have a dog that's missing, if you're having issues with dog custody, go ahead and activate that microchip. It's only $20 and report your dog is stolen so you can get your dog back. I activated the chip in the hopes that Grace had been adopted out and that she was with another family, and hopefully the family would take her to the vet or to a groomer and scan that chip and see that she had been stolen. At this point, you know, I'm just saying that my dog was stolen because my friend Jane is fucking lying to me somewhere. And, you know, I want to believe what she's saying, but things aren't adding up. And I don't want to believe that my dog is dead, but things aren't adding up. I activated the chip, and it's a waiting game after that. I'm just waiting for the people that adopted her to, you know, take her to the vet and get her a checkup, get her shots or whatever. At this point, you know, I'm thinking like maybe they'll see her tags, but then I remember one of her tags had fallen off. She only had a rabies tag on, and so her address tag wasn't on. And so I was like, shit. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? It's just the waiting game. It's just waiting. 4 days later, after I activate that chip, I get a call. I'm in the library at school, and I'm studying for something. So I answer the phone, and the lady on the phone asks me if I own a fawn-colored boxer named Grace. And I say yes, absolutely yes. I just, I literally start like cackling a little bit because this is just insane. Like, yes, I do own a dog named Grace. Where the fuck is she? And the lady tells me she's actually here at this kennel in South Carolina. And I'm thinking, how long has she been there? And the lady says, about 4 weeks. Things start adding up for me. It ends up that Jane had taken Grace to a kennel over a month ago when she went on vacation the first time and left her there without any intent of getting her back. There was no record of Jane and Grace at the adoption agency because she had never fucking been there. There was no record of Jane and Grace at the pound because she had never fucking been there. She had never been there. And Jane had called me to tell me that they were going to put my dog down because she had kennel cough. And I guess she was doing that in the hopes that I would just give up. Like, she just kept putting these roadblocks, the adoption, kennel cough, the fleas. Like, I don't even think that actually happened. Because she was in the kennel for the entire time that Jane had her. So, safe to say, I'm upset. But, you know, I'm chilling because I know where my dog is now. So I let the people at the kennel know that I will be coming to get my dog this weekend. And they're like, why can't you come tomorrow? Well, I'm 6 hours away. And they're like, whoa, okay. So you're not the person who brought the dog in. I was like, no, I'm not. My friend Jane was babysitting my dog while we were trying to figure out stuff for her separation anxiety and blah, blah, blah. And the lady's like, okay, cool. Just come and get her. I'm sorry that you went through all this, and I'm glad you're gonna get reunited with your dog. And I was like, me too. Haha. Me too. That weekend, my dad and I drove up to South Carolina. It was 6 hours, and got my dog. She was good. She was happy. And, you know, everything was all good. And I guess this is like Cheaters. You know how they have the segments where you're doing like the recon on the person who's cheating, and you find out the truth, and then there's a confrontation. And so I did contact Jane and ask her, you know, where's my dog? And I gave her a chance to tell me the truth, and she did tell me the truth. I think it became obvious that I knew the truth, but I wanted her to tell me. And she did, and she said she didn't want to disappoint me, which I don't understand, because this is literally the only way you could disappoint me, is by lying to me. Yeah, I don't know what possessed her to act the way she did when I've been telling her the entire time to please bring my dog back if it's too much for you. I don't want to take advantage of you. And also, my parents have been sending her money. She had just taken it. That's hilarious. But to this day, we're not really friends. And I'm okay with that. I hope she is. I'm just glad to have my dog back. I mean, I'm not mad anymore. I was mad originally, but I got over it pretty quick. Maybe within the first week, because, you know, keeping that stuff inside you, it just eats you the fuck up. And I don't want to be a person that's holding a grudge for something that they can't change. I can't change that my dog had been abandoned at a kennel for over a month. I can't change that. But I did get my dog back, and so, you know, everything's all good. So we ended up finding a way to better accommodate Grace so she didn't have, you know, really bad anxiety when everyone left. My aunt came down from New York and actually lived with us for a few months, and so that helped a whole lot. And then we kind of weaned her off of needing someone there to just having the radio on. We gave her a bone, and then, like, you know, a really good run in the morning and in the evening. And so she's pretty good. Like, it tires her out enough that she's, you know, just chilling most of the day. That was a harrowing experience. It was very upsetting to feel lied to and to feel like I couldn't do anything, but I just kept pushing. I think that's kind of the moral of this story, is no matter how many obstacles, how much adversity is put at your feet, that you just keep pushing. You just keep doing it, because there's nothing else to do than to push. Because if you give up, then you don't get anywhere. And so if there's anyone out there, you know, struggling with custody of pets or even your children, just keep pushing. Never give up. I know there's a lot of times I wanted to give up, and this wasn't even a long stint of time. This was only over a month, but it was really stressful. Yeah, that's been story time with Finn. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I apologize, I guess. Yeah, that's some crazy shit that happened to me 4 years ago. Deuces.